Good afternoon, my friends. Thank you for joining us for one more session of Kardec After Lunch, part of spiritismstudy.org, hosted by Kardec Radio. Uh, First of all, I'd like to apologize for our change of scenery, of setting. We had some other commitments that we cannot part the ways from, hence we are here. Also, the reason I'm using headsets because I'm having issues, technical issues with our audio sources, and I'm going to have to use this until the situation can be remedied. But as we have done before, allow me to read a couple of announcements here. Uh, Download Kardec Radio's app, available free of charge for Android or iPhone, and listen to our programs and podcasts. Feel encouraged to send questions, comments, or suggestions to Kardec Radio's Twitter account. And although all of this work is done by volunteers, there are costs associated with web and app hosting, along with broadcast and publishing. So if you're able to, please be kind and donate so this work of love may continue for many years to come. Okay, we are part of a initiative that tries to be simple and spontaneous, which read and comment. Okay, the objective is to let the doctrine and, of course, along with your free will, make the necessary changes to thoughts, words, and actions to fall in line with God's will, right? And today we're going to be reading from the Medium's book. And we were on chapter 6, I believe, last time. We're on question number 11. There is a dialogue with his spirit and asking questions to it. So it goes like this. Number 11. Can anyone who sees a spirit talk to it? Right? It's a very pertinent question. Let's hear the answer. Certainly, and that is exactly what should be done in such a case. Ask the spirit who it is, what it wants, and what can be done for it. If it is unhappy and suffering, showing sympathy will bring a relief. If it is a benevolent spirit, it might intend to offer good advice, right? And just so you know, at any given time here, feel free to send in questions, comments, or suggestions. If they are meaningful or they're thoughtful and the audience benefit from it, I'll make sure I'll mention and I'll post along in the screen for others to read. If I'm not able to answer your questions, comments, suggestions right away, feel note that I will try my best to answer them as quick as possible, okay? Now, he continues there a sub-question to this, and he says, in such cases, how will the spirit respond? And the answer is, sometimes by articulating sounds as a living person would, but usually transmitting its thoughts, right? So many tell me, particularly my mother even, will tell me that sometimes when they dream with relatives who were deceased, they have a conversation. However, the deceased, the spirit, that disincarnate spirit, does not move their lips. So it's just a thought transmission. Number 12. Do spirits who appear to have wings really have them, or are they only a symbolic appearance? Thank you, Dulcie, for your support. And the answer is, spirits do not have wings. They do not need them, since as spirits they can go anywhere. But they appear in this form in order to impress the person to whom they show themselves. Some appear wearing their normal clothing, others in drapery, and some with wings, as the characterization of the spiritual category they are representing. Also, Gario Menderos, thank you for your support. So you see, many times the spirits will change their appearance to be better received, if I can put it that way, by its audience, right? Number 13. Are the persons we see while dreaming always who they appear to be? Good question, right? I'll tell you the answer. They are almost always the same ones. Your spirit goes to meet them, or they come to meet you. Now, almost always, right? Because remember, a lot of times, um, what could happen is that we have a interpretation, an idea of what that person is, which may not always correlate to who the person has become. Many times we grow separated from each other, right? We are distant. We do not have the same level of um, interchange, and people do change. And many times when they change, and we are unaware of it, that does not mean that they didn't change. It's our memory of them has not kept up with the pace, has not been updated. Let's continue. Number 14. Couldn't deceptive spirits take on the appearance of someone dear to us in order to mislead us? Also a valid question, right? And the answer is, they take on fantastic appearances only in order to have fun at your expense. But they are matters that they are not allowed to play with. So you see, there is the component of permission, and sometimes that permission is not given. So, and I like to say there are many things that are, no, I would say hidden, but they are not readily apparent if you're not perhaps, let's say, reading with the intensity or the reading between the lines, right? Sometimes there are things that are implied, and you just kind of have to really read it 2-3 times in order to grasp the implicit idea. Number 15, since thought is a kind of evocation, we can understand that it can induce a spirit to appear. Oh, thank you, Vanessa, for your support. So thank you for making Kardec Radio possible. But why is that the persons whom we think about the most and whom we most ardently desire to see again almost never appear to us in our dreams, while we often see others who do not interest us in the least and whom we never think about? Also a very valid question, right? I'll tell you the answer. It is not always possible for spirits to show themselves visibly, even in dreams, and in spite of your desire to see them. Causes apart from their will may prevent them. Besides, it is almost always a trial which even your most ardent desire cannot avert. So you see, even in the afterlife, and couldn't be any different, if spirits have occupations, we do have matters to tend to, right? And we also, like as I mentioned before, the permission factor. We are not permitted to or available to communicate at any given time. But let's continue. As for individuals who do not interest you, it is possible that they are thinking of you, even though you are not thinking of them. Moreover, you have no idea about relationships in the spirit world, where you might meet up with a multitude of close, old, and new acquaintances whom you have no memory of at all while awake. Meaning, the affinity that we develop really kind of dictates, or let's say, friendship or circle of friends in the spiritual world. Whereas in the material world, we tend to aggregate only with those who are near us. And many times we even aggregate to those who are not dear to us, but they belong to some group where we feel compelled to make a part of it, right? But in the spiritual world, it's all by affinity of thought. And as we have lived many lives, there are those who we are in this incarnation not able to have a recollection of it. However, they do not cease to be dear to us. And there's a commentary by Kardec here that says this: when there is no means of verifying visions or apparitions, we can almost certainly treat them as being only hallucinations. However, when they are confirmed by the circumstances, we cannot attribute them to our imagination. Such are, for example, apparitions at the time of death, while asleep or awake, involving persons whom we had not been thinking about, and who by various signs have come to reveal the absolutely unexpected circumstances of their passing. So it has been cases, I believe, I cannot remember if it was in the Spirit's book, but of persons who know exactly how and when someone died before even receiving the first notice. You know, it could be a letter, it could be a phone call. Continue. In such instances, we have seen horses rear up and balk before apparitions that frighten their riders. Imagination may be something that humans are endowed with, but the same cannot be said for animals. Moreover, if the images we see while dreaming are always the result of our waking concerns, that would not explain why we hardly ever dream of the matters that we have been thinking about the most, right? Not saying that we never do. I particularly sometimes do. If I'm preoccupied with a certain thing, many times I will dream about that particular thing, but not always, as we mentioned here. Number 16. Why do certain visions happen more frequently during illness? And let's see the answer. They happen just as frequently in the state of perfect health. But during illness, the material ties loosen, and the weakness of the body allows more freedom to the spirit, which then more easily communicates with other spirits. This is particularly noted, perhaps, in what is in the United States. We use the term NDE, near-death experience, and there is a whole field of study dedicated just for that matter. If you are interested, please Google NDE or near-death experiences, and you see a plethora of material. Much of it may be of your interest. Number 17. Spontaneous apparitions seem to occur more often in certain countries. Are the members of some cultures more gifted than others at receiving these manifestations? And the answer is, have you made a historical registration of every apparition? Apparitions, noises, and all other manifestations occur equally all over the world, but they display their own particular characteristics according to the cultures among which they occur. Andrea Veleda Cosley, thank you very much for your support. For example, among those who were writing is not widespread, there are no writing mediums. Among others, they abound, right? So it all depends on the particularities of that country or civilization. Also, among the former, manifestations involving noises and movements of objects are more frequent than intelligent communications, which are less appreciated or sought after. Right? So, as I mentioned before, the communicating spirit would have, if able to, have a discernment about what audience he or she is trying to reach, and it may conform its presentation as such. Number 18, or actually number 18, that's why we're going to continue next week. But I thank each and every one of you for your support. We also have Rita de Cassia Fernandez. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for tuning in. Kardec Radio, also available as a radio channel. Okay. And thank you for your patience. Thank you for your tolerance with my imperfections, my inaccuracies, and also the setting. But hopefully next week we'll be coming back to our studio. Until next time, Godspeed to all.